I'm joined by Colm Nally, Meath coach, to talk about the Tipperary versus Mayo All-Ireland football semi-final. Colm, I think most people would think that this is going to be a handy enough Mayo victory. Tipperary did brilliantly to win the Munster title, as I know only too well, but Mayo are the seasoned team.
Yeah, and very interesting, Shane. When Meath played Mayo in the National Football League, I definitely sensed that Mayo were rebuilding. You just knew by their sort of the team selection and the strategies that they were trying to play that there looked like to be a rebuilding element to it. So if you go through the team selections of late too, you would see that they're definitely kind of have one eye. Not a lot has changed in that they're still kind of based on strong running from behind the ball, and they've got their ball strong, or their strong ball carriers. So where you would expect it to be a seasoned team and straightforward, it might not be as such.
And like, just to run through Tipperary's record so far: beat Clare 2-11 to 1-11, Limerick after extra time 1-15 to 2-11, and then saw off Cork 17 points to 14. So a Division 2 team, Division 4 team, and I know Cork aren't really a Division 3 team and they have got promoted, but a Division 3 team. So they haven't faced a Division 1 side yet. So my concern as a Tipperary man is the increased pace, power, athleticism. Will Tip be able to live with that?
Yeah, and that's the worry I have as well. Like, I mean, like when you look through the sort of a Mayo line out, they're based on strong running and hard running. Now, I think I sent you a clip there of when Tipperary were defending, and I think there's a lot of similarities to way Dublin play, the way they're trying to set up. Now, that could be Paddy and Christie's influence on them, but they have a heavy presence behind the ball. So in that clip, you'll see 12, including the goalkeeper, coming for 12 players within the 45. So again, for the Tipperary, the Yellows team shooting that way, and Mayo, green and red, shooting that way. So at one stage, Tipperary had 12 ball players behind the ball, and they were all within the 45. Now, I'd be familiar with a lot of them Tipperary teams because having coached Loud, we came across them a couple of times, and Brian Fox was always an out-and-out sweeper. Now, I'm not sure what age Brian is, but I don't think he's that out-and-out sweeper anymore. He still plays that role, backfilling and getting back, and he's brilliant on the ball. And I think what they try to do now is to try to get him kind of linking the attack from the defence. But up here, you'll see what I noticed a lot is Conor Sweeney very seldom moves out of there. He stays up there. This support player will change. It could be Michael Quinlivan. It could be Kennedy. It could be one of them players. But he normally always stays there. The biggest worry I'd have for Tipperary, Shane, would be is if you cut the head off the snake, you'll kill the attack. And they scored 12 points from the forwards last week, but only 2 players got them, and that was Quinlivan and Sweeney, and 12. So it was, I think they got 7 from play. So if Mayo can really put a stranglehold on the 2 lads, I know I'm stating the obvious here, but it takes a big sort of bang away from them, a big threat away from them.
Yeah, Billy Joe Padden was writing in the Mayo News, and he mentioned that exact thing, and he said, make the other 13 players beat you. Do you think Tipperary have that quality outside of them? And I mean, Colin Reardon obviously is a top-level athlete.
I don't, unfortunately, but I do believe that what you have in Michael Quinlivan and Conor Sweeney is 2 exceptional players, that it's going to take a huge effort to stop them. You might curtail them, but you may not stop them. See, Quinlivan is very, very interesting because to me, he's a bit like Tom Brady. When he comes out on the ball, like if he gets the ball anyway, kind of by the 65-metre line, his head is up and he's looking for that pass in. But if that pass isn't in, he'll take a shot. You know, he's not worried about kind of kicking wide and killing the ball. So, I mean, that's very, very dangerous. Like a lot of his points through there were long-range points, you know, out wide. So he will have a goal. Like if he can't get the ball to Sweeney. The other option is when they do kind of all press forward. It's very Dean Rockish. He waits and he'll turn and swivel in any area and take a shot. Colm Sweeney will. So they're very, very dangerous, the 2 of them. Again, you were talking about Colm Reardon. He was named at 12 the last day, but he sort of went out to the middle, and Casey kind of swapped with him. But you could see Aidan O'Shea coming out really to take him, because again, like we spoke about Cavan. There is going to be a lot of long kicking in this as well, and like Emmer Comerford has a top class kick out. He'll hit some 45s as well, but they will be looking again. The tactic, if you win it early and win it long, you have a great chance of exposing Mayo. The thing about Mayo. Sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I was going to say the power runners that Mayo have. I felt that Tipperary were tiring as that game was going on against Cork, and now you're talking about a Division 1 team who's been at the top level. And I'm thinking of Owen McLaughlin running through, Paddy Durkin, Keegan if he's kind of let off the leash a little bit, Matty Ruan as well. So that would be a big concern from a Tipperary point of view.
Absolutely right, and it's all right from a Tipperary point of view. And I talked this through a lot, lads. It's all right getting lots of people behind the ball, right? And what happens is with them protector banks is they must press out and they must engage with the runners. If they don't, right, they'll sit back, and you have Cillian O'Connor there, and indeed Conroy, who can take long range points. And what happens? They come out and loop around them and take the points. But the thing about it is, again, going back to similar to Dublin, you have the guys you mentioned that are strong runners, but they engage with you, right? A lot of them, they don't pass and move; they actually run at you and they commit to you. And what they're looking for is what we call slipstream runners. That when they engage with you, that is a rat man coming right behind you, and that's for the offload of the ball. And again, going back to what we said about Dublin, the 60% versus 90%. Cillian O'Connor is 90% from free kicks in around that area, so they're quite happy to buy free kicks there from me. So from a point of view of Tipperary, it has to be kind of, lots of bodies, lots of hands in the air, and little or no contact.
What do you think is Mayo's greatest strength? Is it that running game?
Well, what I think some of Mayo's greatest strength is this, that they have tremendous leaders and tremendous communicators, okay? Like they have been a top team for the last couple of years, right? So what they do is, right, again, they know that constant running and battering at you tires the team out. And so they play that percentage to tire you out and waiting for the chance to score. One of the things that's very, very interesting, I think, in this game is Mayo had an extra week off. Like Mayo played on the 15th of November. So that gives them a lot of benefit, and it gives them in a benefit that a lot of people probably wouldn't even think about, is it gives them an extra week to analyse the team. Right? I know they were kind of didn't know who they were playing until the week, but they could do analysis on both Cork and Tipperary and give them an extra foothold, because that stuff's very, very important, particularly if you're not playing somebody every week, Shane. You have to get as much footage as Colm Nally, get as much footage as Michael Quinlivan. You have to, so that gives them an extra week to prep for that, and I think that's kind of a massive advantage to Mayo. Plus, gives them a bit of advantage there to freshen things up. They could kind of take the foot off the gas, because the way the fixtures came, you were only getting one training session in a week where you can have a good kind of a good intense session. The others kind of maintenance and recovery. So they would have had possibly getting 2 good sessions in last week. So they would have got probably 2 extra sessions in compared to Tipperary. So I think that'll be a big point.
Coming into the Munster final against Cork, the reasons that I was thinking Tipperary have a chance here is that they have the 2 best forwards in Michael Quinlivan. And that going into that game, Michael Quinlivan and Conor Sweeney, and probably the best athlete in Colm Nally. And I think you could make a fair argument to say that, again, Tipperary will have the 2 best forwards and the best athlete, give or take. They'll have some brilliant ones.
Yes,
but then the rest of the other 12 might be where Mayo have the advantage. Do you think I'm right in that, and that Tip might have the best forwards and the best athlete?
Yes, I would agree with you there. Like on show, right? So if you go through the 2 sets of teams, the 2 best forwards are possibly on the Tipperary team, but then the best defenders are probably on the Mayo team. So you might see Lee Keegan taking one of them, and I probably think, believe it or not, Paddy Durkin will probably take 2 of them. So I think they might interchange, because Michael Quinlivan comes out a lot, and when he comes out a lot, that's when you want someone like Durkin or Keegan that'll go as well and put him on the back foot, try to get him to defend. And Mayo, that's why I go back to the communication point. Mayo are very good at that. So when they see, if they knew Lee Keegan was marking Michael Quinlivan out around the midfield, someone will just drop in for him to allow him to go, and that'll free up an attacking man. And that's where they look to get some advantages, I think.
Yeah, that'll be my concern. 4 years ago in that semi-final, Michael Quinlivan was marked by Lee Keegan, and Keegan was marking absolutely everyone out of it that summer. I remember he did a great job in Sean Kavanagh as well when he went in full forward. So that would be my concern, that Tipperary might get overwhelmed and not get on the front foot. So is there any other aspect of this game that you're finding particularly interesting?
Yeah, something that I noticed there, again, I sent it to you, looking at Mayo seem to be using what, again, they're only fancy words, I think, but they seem to be using what I call a drift stroke seesaw defence. Right, that clip you can see Shane Walsh scored a fantastic point in this, but you can see Dermot O'Connor getting back, pointing to some of his colleagues where he wants to run, and again, so this would be that Mayo defending. They are tucking in really, because Tipperary would have men behind the ball and be running. So Mayo are kind of marking 2/3 of the pitch. Now people will say that's just because he was attacking one wing, but it's not, because if you're attacking one wing, so they were attacking down here, so where if you're attacking one wing and if you tuck in and leave all that space free, it takes phenomenal effort to get a ball from there to there. And when a forward sees that space, he might be tempted to that. So they're playing what we call a drift defence, marking or covering 2/3 of the pitch. And that seemed to be a definite change from Mayo from gone by, where they were kind of a little bit sort of gung-ho and man for man. You could definitely see players tucking in from the opposite sideline there and marking 2/3 of the pitch. Now, I don't know if that's something they're working in, right? But again, it just really means, okay, that on worst case scenario, you're going to concede a point. And like goals are going to be premium in this game. If Mayo don't concede a goal, it's Tipperary, they would fancy themselves that they would have enough to kind of outscore them.
Yeah,
and as I said to you, like 12 points from two players up front is a phenomenal sort of return. And if they can even half that, they conceded 6 points, goes a long way to sort of, as I said, cutting the head out of the snake.
And still in all, they only beat Galway by a point and needed a cynical foul later on to make sure of it. So it's like Mayo beat Leitrim 2-15 to 10 points, and everyone would expect that, and probably by more. Impressive against Roscommon 116 to 13. They got relegated a few weeks beforehand. Wouldn't read too much into that. But is there a reason to make Mayo like massive favourites, or like how heavy a favourite do you make them here?
No, I wouldn't make them massive favourites, and I think that's what happens right when you're rebuilding a team and when you're mixing sort of new players in with kind of established players. There's a level of inconsistency in your performances as such until everybody gets to know each other. So you would have to remember, like as I said, that Mayo team was on the go a long time. They probably knew what each other had for breakfast. They were really close. They were really tight. They've been through an awful lot of battles together. That's not the case now. They've got new men coming in, so you're kind of trying to find each other. So little things like backfilling into space, marking men, knowing when a fella's going to sort of stop a fella with a tackle or a foul or a technical foul type stuff, right? You get to know that from playing with a fella all the time, and that's probably not there yet. So that's why I wouldn't have them as standing favourites. I do expect them to win, but it might be around a 5 or 6 point winning margin. Again, Croke Park is going to have a bearing on it because, as I said to you, that extra week, the strong running, as you say, by McLaughlin, by Stephen Cohen, and you can see Keith McLaughlin still firing on all cylinders, right? And they have a good, strong run in midfield. So that's why I think, again, you can see Aidan O'Shea could stay in, but he come out to sort of neglect that long trek of Emmet Comfort's kickouts. And again, they'll run hard at them.
Is there any particular setup that Mayo have in kickouts or any other aspect of their play that you want to talk about?
Again, with all due respect, it's probably the weakest area is their kickouts. And David Clark likes to go wide. So I think what you'll see a high press from Tipperary. Tipperary, again, because we're in the winter, Shane, right, and because we don't know what weather's going to be there, you could be kicking into a gale force wind, you could be kicking into, you don't know what. So any slight advantage there, you'll see a team kind of adapting to that. So I think they would target the kickouts big time, Tipperary. They would kind of position themselves up in an area and take away that. He likes to open his body and kick to his right, and they'll probably take that kick out away from him. So I do think they'll target that is right, yeah.
Yeah, and is there any other aspect on this game that you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, just the main thing is, as I said to you, you could see, I would say, with all due respect, Mayo, again, are rebuilding. I don't think they would have expected to be contesting an All-Ireland final this year. I think they would have been quite happy. They haven't won a Connacht now in 5 years, so they're quite happy to win that, I thought. But now they know that they have a chance. it's hard to know. They don't fear Dublin, but I know they won't be thinking like that yet. But they will be kind of looking at a chance of saying, you know what, we're a little bit further on our development than we expected. So they'll take with both hands the opportunity to play down an All-Ireland final day.
Yeah, and do you think that Mayo have much improving to do, or do you think that like I'm looking at some of the new players that come in, like Owen McLaughlin, Ryan O'Donoghue, Tommy Conroy, all these kind of players. Do you feel they've hit the ground running, or there's more to come from them? Because the flip side is Aidan O'Shea and Lee Keegan and these players are turning 30, so they kind of need to make it happen almost right now.
Yeah, look, again, as I said to you, right, I think if you look at James Horan when he left, when he left Mayo the last time, he went into club management. He took on Westport there, so that's the best way for you to get to know what's on the ground. People can say you can go through development squads as a coach and things like that, but if you're managing club football, right, you've really got your ear to the ground. You know what's coming. So I'd say, I think he was with them for 2 years, so he would have used that as preparation work for this rebuilding job with Mayo. So he knows all the best players. So again, it's about getting sort of the consistency. And like that extra week off to me is crucial. So I think like you will see a kind of an extra sort of pep in their step because of that. Because they would have known like Galway was kind of like sort of the top team, right, to get over that hurdle. It doesn't matter what way. Sometimes a 1 point win is the best win you can get because it makes you review and be kind of a little bit like critical of your performances, and then you've got an extra week to correct them wrongs in training.
So to finish up then, Mayo by a couple of points in your opinion, is it?
I'd say Mayo between 5 and 6, yeah.
Okay. Thanks very much, Colm.
Oh, well, Shane.
We hit everything there, didn't we?
I think so, yeah.